Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, and the super fortress of intelligent Black thought. This is the BlackChannel.net radio. I am, of course, your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority, and the telephone number is 646-787-1933. 646-787-1933 is your personal access code to the blackest radio program in existence, the only one of its kind on planet Earth. Today, join us. Well, fresh off the burner here, they're reporting now, as you all know, I broadcast out of Shreveport, Louisiana, and right over there in Texas, a little ways away from us here, they've got the situation where these folks are sitting up here and they're out here shooting at one another out here in Texas, in Waco, as a matter of fact. They're shooting at each other over there in Waco, Texas. Looks like some biker gangs. And tonight, what I was going to talk about here, my reason for showing up here tonight was because I wanted to discuss about why black media matters, why you need one. Not just want one, but why you need one. And this incident today here, it only happened just a few hours ago in Waco. This event makes it crystal clear why you need a black media. You need a black media because the rates and the amount of propaganda are simply off the scales right now. They are engaging in some of the most blatant and cutthroat yellow journalism that you ever saw in your life. First of all, they just keep talking about these gangs. There was a confrontation. First of all, 9 people are dead so far. 9. Not over the course of a weekend. 9 people are dead altogether. And that's just so far. The police are talking about they expect the number to go up. They expect the number to go up. That's what's happening right now. So we're man, these guys are making Chirac, Chicago look like a vacation resort. These fellas ain't playing around. They got a whole different level to this. Nobody in the media is referring to these, and there were dozens of them out there. Nobody is referring to them as thugs. Nobody. You can go from one website to another, 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 and absolutely no one. Even on Fox News, they already got videos up. Nobody at Fox is referring to these white biker gangs as a group of thugs. Nobody. Damn near a dozen people killed. And these ain't thugs. Black people just out in the streets in Baltimore and Ferguson, 0. At least by black people. The police are doing all the murdering and all the killing. Black folk, nobody got killed. Nobody really even got injured. But the white supremacist media refers to them simply being in the streets as thugs. If you protest the police murdering you, that's thuggery. These gang members gunning down half a score of people, that's not thuggery. You go look everywhere. USA Today, CNN, Fox News, New York Times. You go everywhere right now. The local TV stations in Waco, they got their stories printed up there. You go and look at theirs. They are not referring to these gang members as thugs. They just say gangs. They let the police describe them as criminal, but no one is piling on the adjectives. There was something else that I noticed that they didn't do either. Not only did they not refer to these gang members as thugs, they didn't even tell you what the names of the gangs were. They didn't even say the name of the gangs. Now I want you all that right there is the uncomfortable, unsettling, and ominous part of this. That is downright disturbing that they refuse to even say what the name of the gangs are. They won't even say what the names of these 3 gangs are. And I went from one website to another. I was eventually able to get their names, but it took me about 15 minutes of Googling to find it. So the national white supremacist media, and we're talking about Breitbart's website and a bunch of others, they all abided by the code of Omerta. They refuse to indict themselves. They refuse to do it. If you don't believe this is a conscious white supremacist effort now, you are a fool and a coward. Get the hell away from me. You're not fit to survive. When these folks run up on you, you won't. Now, I did take a look at the names of them. The names of the 3 gangs are the Scimitars, the Banditos, and the Cossacks. Now, there are some pictures out there that show the Cossacks and the Scimitars standing by their trucks in one shot, but it's the name of the 3rd gang that you couldn't find. First of all, you couldn't find, they in the articles themselves, they didn't mention them. If you didn't look at their gang patches on their jackets in the pictures, you wouldn't know. And for the Banditos, I haven't even found any pictures yet. I haven't found any pictures yet that actually show the Banditos. None. This is how white supremacy works, people. Now, listen to the story as it's related by CNN with their half-ass reporting here, because of course they are covering white supremacy's ass. And if you don't believe that you are their enemy, just take a look at how they write these stories. Clearly they believe that they are yours. Clearly they believe that. Clearly they believe that they are your enemy. The story of CNN says gunfire erupted Sunday among rival biker gangs in Waco, Texas, leaving at least 9 people dead, according to police. Authorities had anticipated trouble and pre-positioned officers. Now, that's the second sentence of the article at CNN. Authorities had anticipated trouble and pre-positioned officers. Whoa. So you mean that you guys had forewarning that they were there before shooting had started? Is that what you're saying? Because that's what it sounds like you're saying. There were at least 3 rival gang groups here this morning for whatever reason. Now this guy says for whatever reason. That's Sergeant W. Patrick Swanton of the Waco Police. As they were here, we had officers on scene. We expected issues. The fight broke out at Twin Peaks Restaurant and spilled into the parking lot. It quickly escalated from hands and feet as weapons to gunfire. It quickly escalated from hands and feet as weapons to gunfire. He, Sergeant Swanton, expressed anger at the management of Twin Peaks Restaurant, which he claims has been less than helpful in dealing with gangs in the past. He declined to identify the specific groups involved in Sunday's shootings. Let me say this again. He declined, the Sergeant Swanton, the police, declined to identify the specific groups involved in Sunday's shooting. Are we frustrated? Sure, because we feel like there may have been more that could have been done by a business to prevent this, Swanson said. Brothers and sisters, neither the restaurant, nor the media, nor the police themselves, everybody is in on it. This is the very definition of a conspiracy. I don't know how I make that any more clear to you. This is the very textbook definition of conspiracy. When you've got a group of people who consider it their job to join together to conspire to accomplish a specific goal, that is conspiracy. And that's what you just witnessed here. The police, the media, the news outlets, they're all, the reporters, everybody is in. I thought reporters were supposed to be digging for the story. Do you mean the reporters couldn't even say the police declined to name the groups involved, but we saw patches from 3 specific gangs: the Scimitars, the Cossacks, and the Bandidos? Why didn't the news outlets, the supposed news outlets, why didn't they say that? The local Texas station KWTX, they refused to name the gangs either. They refused to name any of them. And by the way, their website reports that there were 18 victims taken by ambulance, by the way. 18. For those of you who think this was a little affair. For those of you who think this was a little matter here, I understand something. This is the kind of thing right here that if these were black folk involved, you would know everything. You would know everything. If you still don't believe that these people are out to get you, I don't know what will. There's a story in the New York Post talking about how firefighters in New York, because the standards have been lowered, that there's one in particular named Michael Johnson. They named him by name. Michael D. Johnson won't fight fires. Instead, he stays on the sidelines as his engine company 257 colleagues rush into burning buildings. They mention this black man by name in a story in the New York Post. So they're not happy about one firefighter that they think is not pulling his weight, I guess. But isn't it amazing? You had to pull teeth to get the names of cops. So they're saying that lax standards are a problem at the fire department in New York, and that people may die because we got affirmative action hirees on the fire department in New York. They're not talking about the scores of black people who have already been killed, unarmed. That is not considered an affirmative action problem because of being white. That's just, oh well, it's a tragedy. And this is why we need black media so much, that will stand up and talk these things. Not just talk about the black folk who were victims, but the people who will stand up and say, hey, this is what the bad guys are doing. Because right now we have this nonsense that they are going to stand up and do something for themselves. That they're going to do something to themselves about themselves. That doesn't happen that way. Now, if you go to a Google search at history.knoji.com, it's got histories on their bios of some of the most notorious biker gangs. On that list, they have the Bandidos. It says the Bandidos were founded by Marine Corps and Vietnam veteran Don Chambers in San Leon, Texas in 1966. The club's official motto is, "We are the people our parents warned us about," with a big Mexican in sombrero brandishing a machete and pistol adorning the club's distinctive patch. The Bandidos currently boast of 104 chapters in the United States, along with international chapters around the world. A gang called the Cossacks, for those of you who don't know what Cossacks are, that's straight out of Slavic country. That term Cossack, you need to go look it up. These people let you know what they're here for, and it should be especially disturbing because if you take a look at the Cossacks, they got a picture of them. One of the pictures that they posted from the gang fight today shows two of the Cossack members, and they got the double lightning bolts on their arms. The double lightning bolts. Now, for those of you who are familiar with your Nazi paraphernalia, you know what the SS double lightning bolts stand for. That is standard white supremacist insignias. But you don't wait for the media to describe this as a white supremacist melee. Don't look for the media to bring race into this at all. They know how to abide by the code of Omerta. They know how to do that. We, not so much, but they do. And if you didn't have the black channel, who was going to talk about this? TV1, BET? Who's going to talk about this? Melissa Harris Perry? She's too busy running down black males. She could give a damn about something like this. If you don't have black media outlets like the black channel, you know nothing about this. Nobody is talking about this. And you vote for people based on what you know. How can you vote on something you don't even know about? How do you do that? We're going to go ahead and open up the telephone lines here right now. Let's go ahead and see if we can get caller from 804. You're on live with the Black Channel. Caller from 804, last try. You're on live with the Black Channel. Okay, caller from 804 is Starstruck. Let's try caller from 313. You're on live with the Black Channel. Okay. Something may be going on there with their phones or whatever. We'll come back to that in just a moment. Either that or the white supremacists are playing on the phones tonight, which can be an issue. They probably just want to check out, hey, are the black folks over there talking about what we're doing? Yes, we are over here talking about what you're doing. Because you can't get the national media to do that. Understand something, they're just going to sweep this under the rug after it's done, by the way. They will have nothing to say about this after it's done. Do not for a second look for them to say anything about this. Because they're not. It's not in their best interest to do so. It's not in their best interest to say something about this. As black people, it's in our best interest to do that. But then the question becomes, well, how many of us even are? How many of us even see the symbolism behind these types of tactics? How many of us even recognize these things when we see them? Because it's very easy to get somebody to talk about this kind of stuff. You notice that the Hotep crowd doesn't talk about these kind of things. You can't get your so-called black media to do it. You can't get any of these people to discuss these things. Kinda makes you think they see it the same way, huh? I'm just gonna call that out like it is. Kinda makes you think they see it the same way. You don't know what the deals are that these people struck to get their little jobs, to get their little networks. You don't know what the deals were that they struck to get that. You don't know. You do not know what these people had to do to get their funky little positions. You don't know how far they had to go to get where they are today. I'm telling you that this goes way deeper than just the white media outlets. It goes way deeper than that. I'm telling you that when you can get Don Lemon on the red eye to show up in Baltimore and Ferguson, and yet you can't get the bastard to even mention any of these white biker gangs, I'm telling you that that is not just coonery, that is an accomplice. That is not just coonery, that is a collaborator. That's a collaborator. And even if you aren't willing to acknowledge it for what it is, just know that his bosses and his masters, they know it for what it is. How are we as black people ever supposed to make accurate choices on things if we do not even have complete information? Forget accurate altogether. If you don't even have whole information. We don't even have whole information upon which to act. And we don't have people who can explain it to us either. There are a woeful few who can. You'll have somebody like a Neely Fuller or a Tariq Nasheed, but that's going to be it. As a group, as black people, we don't have a black national media. We don't even have a media network that we can rely on. At least, you know, we're building it now, I guess, between the Black Channel and other places like us. We're building that now. But as a group, we don't have that. As a group. As a group, we don't. And that's how you can have gangs of white supremacists. And by the way, what else does that tell you? All three of these biker gangs ended up in the same place at the same time. Why? Why did they do that? Why did all three of these biker gangs end up in the exact same place at the exact same time? How is that possible? I'm asking a question here. How is that possible? That three biker gangs showed up in the exact same place at the exact same time. Now, the police knew they were coming, and the restaurants apparently knew they were coming, but the general public did not. I submit to you that there are white supremacists who are members and collaborators with the gangs working in those police departments. Just like the TV show Sons of Anarchy, we have a real life Sons of Anarchy. That the reason you can't get the police and the media to talk about these white biker gangs is because the police and the media are in on it with the gangs. They are a part of it. We're going to see if we can try our phone lines again here now. Caller from 205, you're on live with the Black Channel.
Oh, wow. This is my first time calling in.
What's your name? Where you calling from?
I'm Isaiah Brand. I'm calling in from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Isaiah from Alabama, what's on your mind?
This channel's been a real eye-opener for me. I just started watching, like, last summer. Y'all revealed a lot of stuff I didn't know. I was really in my own little world.
Why didn't your parents tell you this? They lived it.
Well, I don't know. My parents mostly watch, like, television and stuff. My dad fought in Vietnam. We talk about little stuff like this. But they don't really watch YouTube and Ustream stuff.
How old are your parents?
My dad is almost 70 and my mom's like almost 50.
Civil rights generations. That means they grew up with Dr. King and Malcolm X and Huey Newton and they didn't get a damn thing out of it.
Yeah, my dad told me he shook Martin Luther King's hand.
He shook Dr. King's hand. Every Judas usually does.
Oh.
Brother, your father is probably lying to you, first of all. He never met Dr. King. He's ashamed now because he knew he didn't do a damn thing. And that's why his son is calling me up, telling me about basic things that he did not know. Because the father never told you. But I guarantee you that if we go back about 30 years ago when he was about 40, I guarantee you we can find some pictures of him with some snakeskin gaiters and a big long ass Cadillac.
Yeah, he did drive a Cadillac, a white Cadillac.
Okay, now you do understand that that was the luxury car of the 70s and early 80s. You do understand that, don't you?
Yes.
Okay. So his son is ignorant of the white supremacists swirling around him, but dad's got the clothes and the cards. That's when he put his priority on. And his son is out here just now learning who his enemies are from a guy on the internet because the father didn't see any point to telling him. He was too busy pimping hoes, slamming Cadillac doors, and living that life. And lying to you about meeting people that he never even saw. Don't believe that, brother. If Dr. King was so important to him, he'd have a lot more to say about it. He'd have a lot more to say, especially considering Selma. He'd have a lot more to say. He would be living that life. Your father's not living that life. He never did because he's just, at this point, he's ashamed because people like me have started to embarrass and humiliate people like him. So now he realizes that you've leaned in that direction. He's like, damn. What he's really hoping, he said he shook Dr. King's hand. Now, did your father tell you that he did any organizing or any activism? Did he try that lie on you?
No, he didn't tell that lie.
Okay. I was about to say, he's fought in Vietnam, which means that he didn't demonstrate nothing. You go ask your daddy, since he's in a mood to lie about Dr. King. You go ask your father where he shook hands with Dr. King at, and ask him who else was there. And get some dates so you can go Google it for yourself and see if Dr. King was ever in those places at the time that your father claims he was. And get ready to be disappointed in your father. I don't want people lying to young folk anymore. If they cared about these things this much, then you would be on this phone talking to me about how your father passed down his activism from himself to you. That's not what's happening. The young man has gone silent on us.
I know I'm still listening.
How long have your mom and dad been married?
I don't know, like since I was a kid, like a baby.
How old are you?
Like a little after I was born, or
How old are you?
27.
Okay, you're 27 years old, so let's just say that your parents have been married for about 30 years, okay?
Okay.
Would that be safe to say? Because you said that you've been married since you were a baby. Okay, let's just cut the difference and say 25, all right? Let's just say they've been married 25 years. You said your dad is 70?
Yeah.
Okay. Your dad is 70, so that means that your dad was, what, 45 when he met her?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay. And your mom is 50, so that means that your mom was about, did you say she was 50 or 50 something, exactly 50 something else?
Like in her mid-50s.
Okay, let's just say your mom is 55. Let's cut the difference. That means your mom was 30.
Yeah.
Okay. Your mom was 30, and your dad was going into his late 40s.
Okay.
Yeah, he put that Cadillac to good use, didn't he? What did he say, man? I'm gonna ball out. All right. Yeah. Yeah, that's what his concerns were. Grabbed him some young chick and whatnot. The son don't know a damn thing about his enemies. You live in Alabama, you are surrounded on every side by them. From Florida to Mississippi to Georgia, you are boxed in.
He told me when he fought in Vietnam, a white guy was his friend, and they fought side by side.
Kind of proud, isn't he? But he will not tell you the battles that he won against white supremacy over here. He told you that he fought for white supremacy's army. Ask your father to tell you what battles against white supremacy he won here on this soil. Find it out. And the reason I want you to do that, brother, is because you need to understand why you've been ignorant about these issues 27 years old. And talking about you heard this stuff from me. Your father's will be sitting you down, debriefing you at least every time you call him. Every time you talk to that man, he should be debriefing you about that. If supposedly he's lived it, 70 years old, and his son is not prepared to go toe-to-toe with white supremacy. Somebody in the chat room asked a good question. Lonnie Mackey asked a very good question. Your father was in the military. Did your father give you firearms training?
I bought a sniper rifle like in 2012, but we pawned it, and then I bought a pistol a month ago.
Okay, I didn't ask you that. I asked you, did your father give you training?
No.
Okay. You see a problem with that?
You always talk about guns a lot.
He talked about guns. The white kids where you live, their Vietnam and Gulf War parents are teaching them how to use a gun. And your daddy is sitting up here trying to impress you and get bragging rights talking about guns, but ain't showed his son nothing. So your white counterparts are ready to shoot at you. And meanwhile, the couple of weapons you did have found their way to the pawn shop. Your daddy ain't taught. Your father is so negligent that he has not even taught you what the white military taught him. That's something for you to think about.
Yes.
Do you have a copy of my documentary 7 a.m.?
No. How can I obtain one?
You can go to our website, 7ammovie.com. That's 7ammovie.com. The number 7ammovie.com. It will help open your eyes to a lot of things. I recommend you get the 2-disc version since it gives you the most footage and the most commentary. We're getting rave reviews from everybody who's seen it. They're just saying that it's opened up a whole new part of the game to them, and definitely you want to see that as well. It'll open up your eyes, and you're going to have a lot of questions to ask your parents when you get done watching it. You will have a lot of questions you want to ask.
Okay.
I'll let you have the last word.
Black first.
Black first, thank you very much for joining us here today. That civil rights era is a bunch of bastards, ain't they? Let's try this again here. Caller from 313, you're on live with the Black Channel. Okay, caller from 313 is playing on the lines. We'll have to give them the boot. Caller from 406, you're on live with the Black Channel. Okay, caller from 406 is transmitting from Mars, apparently. Okay, caller from 406. I don't want to lose you too much there. Let me see if we can have you call back in and see if you can call us again. And their phone apparently is being jammed by the NSA, so I don't know if they're calling from Havana, Cuba, or whatever the case may be, but definitely give us a call back here again today. Brothers and sisters, this is why we need a black media. We need a black media because you can see just how much people do not know. And their parents aren't teaching them. These are things that their parents are supposed to be telling them. But nobody is communicating this to them. Nobody. Nobody. And if we don't do it, then who will? Let me try caller from 406. Is your phone doing any better? Okay. Looks like they are still having difficulties there. I want to try to get people when I can here, but because nobody is communicating these things, the reason for having a media is so that you have a communication medium with your people. That is the purpose of having a media. So that you have an infrastructure to communicate with your people. You see, if your media is lying to you, then you think that just because you got a black president, that you will finally have protection for black rights. That black people's civil rights will finally be protected because you have a black president. That's what you tell yourself. And that assumption would be completely and totally wrong. When you have a black media, you have got a communication infrastructure that tells you that even if your parents didn't inform you about this, somehow you get that. Somehow you get that. At least somewhere along the line, somebody tells you what's going on. Somewhere. We've got so much bad information and misinformation and false information floating around out there. And the reason for that is because we don't actually have a media infrastructure of our own. We've got repeaters. We've got people who repeat what they read, but do we have people who are sitting down and analyzing what you see? And that's why you have us. I warned you half a decade ago that we are entering the most dangerous and perilous time in history for black people. That we are entering an era identical to the one that the Jews were in Nazi Germany. The situation that we are in is exactly identical to the one that the Jews inhabited in Nazi Germany. that you had your neighbors talking against you in their homes. And black people have always known that our non-black neighbors spoke against us in their homes. The second step is that they then become bold enough to start speaking against you in the streets. Then the next step is the media begins to reflect the tendencies and the sentiments of your enemies. The media begins to talk against you. They begin to use code speak, and then they'll pay a couple of people to come out, because code speak isn't always effective enough. They'll have some of their people come out and just outright say it, that the problem is the blacks. They'll keep letting those little things leak out. They keep letting them leak out into the atmosphere. And then the politicians begin to move against you. All the other pieces are in place. They've got their base. They have their groundswell. Now the politicians begin to move against you. And finally, the exterminations begin. Well, here we are. Here we are. I don't know how to make that any more plain to you. At this point right here, you're going to have a bunch of black folk now. You're going to have some of them. The people who are most dependent, this is the part where they jump up and say, oh, that's not happening. This is where they jump up and say, oh, that's not really occurring. Your parents wanted to forget. I did a broadcast last week talking specifically to young black people. Young black people, you should know every single biker gang in this country. You should know every single one. There should not be a single biker gang in America that you don't know about. There should not be a single white racist entity that you are unaware of and don't know the history of. There should not be a single white symbolism, a white supremacist symbol that you don't know about. From SS to 88, you should know all of them. The lightning bolts, the Iron Cross, Thor Steiner. Look it up. The Nordic Scandinavian gods, and that they keep invoking them. You should understand and know all of these things, because your enemies know about you. Your enemies know about the Black Guerrilla Family, MOVE, the Black Panthers, Malcolm X. Your enemies know about you. How much do you know about them? How much do you know about them? And this is how you can wake up in 2015. There can be a damn shootout at the OK Corral in Waco by 3 groups of people who hate you, and yet you are clueless about any of them. Did you notice something else that I saw in those pictures, by the way? I didn't see a single black face anywhere. In those pictures at that shootout in Waco between those three biker gangs, there was not a single black face in any of the pictures or any of the video that I saw. Not a one. And what this really tells you is that right now, black people have outsourced our ability to communicate with each other. We've outsourced that to the white supremacist regime. So we wear symbols of sports teams that they created, and we listen to music that they created, and tune into channels that they created, and all of those things, if they created them, they're for their benefit. You don't have anything in there that is actually serving your interests. And this is how you can have a shootout where all of the shooters, both the bikers and the police, and all the people standing around, they're all non-black people. But nobody will mention that to you. Nobody will say it. But when black people take to the streets in Ferguson, New York, and Baltimore, they are quick to identify people. The police were quick to say Black Guerrilla Family may be trying to shoot some cops, even though Black Guerrilla Family had nothing to do with anything and didn't do anything. The police were quick to name Black Guerrilla Family as a gang when nobody had been hurt or killed. But in this instance in Waco, they will not even tell you the names of the bikers involved. That is ethnic and racial solidarity at work. Even in death. Even in death. And black people are waiting for the very white supremacist corporate media structures that vilify us to start telling the truth about us. I don't ask CNN to tell the truth. I tell the truth about CNN. I don't ask The Root to tell the truth. I tell the truth about The Root. I don't ask the New York Post and the New York Times to tell the truth. I tell the truth about the New York Post and the New York Times. So if you are not a part of this, and if you don't aggregate to this, damn it, you better. Because all of the people that black people as a group listen to, for the most part, all of those people are out to get you. And they are getting you. When you can have black people get killed, and the national media does not say a word about it for over 72 hours, which is what happened in Ferguson. Mike Brown was killed. 72 hours of black people taken to the streets protesting, uprising, and the national media said nothing about it for 3 days. And now they're back again. White supremacists murdering each other. Heading up into the murdering and maiming and hurting up into the dozens. And the national media tells you nothing about a complete and total cover-up. This is how propaganda works. This is how propaganda works. And if you are a young black person today, do you realize what this really means? This means that they have the ability to kill you in the streets. And who is going to even say it happened? Who's even gonna say that it occurred? The media? Your parents? Who's gonna tell you that this even happened to you? That is the reason why you better conflagrate and congregate around outlets like the Black Channel. You better do it. Because a lot of you out there, you are ready to ride and you are ready to be warriors for your tattoos and your tramp stamps. Your parents taught you to be every bit as superficial and shallow and irrelevant as them. And your parents had a luxury that you don't have. Your parents, believe it or not, your parents had the luxury of being ignorant. Your parents had the luxury of being able to coon. You see, when your parents were your age, they were able the country still needed their labor. They were a necessary labor class when they were your age. They had options like that. You don't have that option. They brought in illegals and immigrants and machinery, and they have rendered the black society as a labor class obsolete and irrelevant. And what that means is you are no longer needed. We didn't want you in the first place. Now you're no longer needed. So before they needed you but didn't want you. Now they neither need you nor want you. And we've got young black people out here who are sitting under the barrel of the gun. Parents are going into the military, coming out telling you nothing. Handing you over. If that young man who called me, if he got killed tomorrow, what's his daddy gonna do about it? If his father's getting a military pension, he's gonna sit there and buck dance and whatever. He's gonna bust out into song. He won't even lift a finger for the life of his own dead child. No wonder your national media figures who are black, no wonder those people operate along the same pathology. I'm saying some things here today that will make your parents very uncomfortable because they know it's the truth. And I'm speaking tonight specifically to young black people. Brothers and sisters, Nike, and I may not have mentioned this before, Nike announced that they are giving a 30% discount to police officers. Black people buying their shoes made them $1 billion company. Black men's faces made them the preeminent shoe apparel manufacturer on earth. And now they are showing you that just in case you thought they were for you for some crazy reason, they're not putting their mouths behind it, they're putting their money where their mouths are. They are giving a 30% discount to police officers. Now, they never gave you a discount. As a matter of fact, they charge you 50 times what the shoes are worth. But they're not doing that to the police. They're giving them discounts. Now that you have given them financial power, they are putting that financial power to use. They no longer even want you as a They no longer even want you as a customer base. So to young black people, I know that your parents acted real slow. I know that your parents acted real dense. I know that your parents acted like dunces. I know that your parents thought that being stupid and unintelligent was glamorous because their whole life was focused upon avoiding an ass whooping, not living in dignity. Their entire life was focused and concentrated, and is today, towards avoiding confrontation with white supremacy. Now, they'll confront you all day, but a coward will not do that to his real enemies. And if you're a young black person listening to me tonight, you better recognize who your enemies are. Your enemies are in the media. You got enemies next door, and you got enemies under your own roof. And that's the truth. That's why the first time that you ever heard of Thor Steiner was here. That is why the first time that you ever heard about real biker gangs and real events like that, that is why the first time that you ever heard of it was here. That was it. That was for a reason. That's why the first time that you ever heard about the 14 words. Now understand that for Jewish people, they make sure about those things. They make sure about the 14 words and the double lightning bolts. For those of you not familiar with the 14 words, it is, "We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children." That was written by a white supremacist named David Lane, who went on to go kill a Jewish radio host. He established his bona fides in blood. They do not teach you. They don't teach their children who their enemies are, but your enemies make sure that their children know who you are. You don't know their code words. You don't know their tactics. You don't know their pathology. And even worse, your parents never taught you how to watch out for it. Your parents never taught you how to look out for those things. Your parents never sat you down and taught you how to do that. And you know why? Because your parents had no desire or interest in confronting and taking on white supremacy, and they were going to be damned if they were going to teach you how to do it, because their greatest fear was that you would go out and confront white supremacy, and they acted like Toya Graham. My children ain't going to fight no white supremacy. They give me my food stamps. This is why, if you are on public assistance, you are one of the greatest threats to black people, because you get your daily bread from the people who are trying to kill us. Which means that you have been co-opted by them. And until you extricate yourself from that situation, you are sitting right next to us, primed, ready, and prepared to sell us out, because he can cut off the food you eat. When somebody can cut off the food you eat, they've got your undivided attention. I don't just say it because it's cute. I don't just say it because it sounds nice. I say it because it's the truth. There's a reason why young black people are being gunned down by the scores right now. And that is because it'll be easier for it to escalate. And your parents did not care enough to tell you this, but damn it, I do. If you are not a member of what we do, let this be your wake-up call. If you are not a part of what we do in Intelligent Black Society, let this be your warning that you need to be now. Your parents have abandoned you. The media knows this. George Zimmerman knows this. The white supremacist media and press know this. Your schools know this. They know that your parents have abandoned you and left you for dead. They know it. They have no need to knock off your parents. Your parents are already as good as dead. They want to break you now. They want to make you helpless now. And if you allow them to, they will. But just understand, they let your parents slide slowly into oblivion. That is not going to be what happens to you. That will not be what happens to you. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the BlackChannel.net radio. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, brothers and sisters from around the world, remember, black is the future, and the future, as you can obviously see, is uncompromising.